Welcome into the Moi Boys Dynasty Podcast, the greatest podcast that you didn't want or ask for. And now introducing your hosts, Jake the gluten-free Karras and Peter Cheater P-Goo Hot Sizzle O'Donnell.
What's up, my homies, and welcome into the My Pie. It's your boy Jake, the gluten-free Karras. Today, I am going to break down for you why everyone else is an idiot, and I am the smartest person alive. Alright. So, generally, if someone is like talking like, oh, everyone else is an idiot, you know, the whole world's just full of idiots, usually the case is that they are the idiot. However, when it comes to these players, I believe that the dynasty community is just so incredibly wrong and stupid about these guys. All right, we're just going to jump straight into it. These are some incredibly disrespected players. First up, we are going to talk about Zac Ertz. When we are talking about Zac Ertz, here is what we're talking about. We are talking about the 5th overall tight end last year. Now, tight end finishes are a smokescreen. They're not real. Who gives a crap if you finish the 5th overall in tight end last year? Because Zac Ertz actually only had 8.4 points per game last year. That's like 0.7 points, 0.7 points better than Tyler Higbee, who finished as like tight end 22. So like you're either one of the elite guys or you're everybody else. So if you don't have one of those elite players, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts. Is it just those three right now that are like the truly elite ones? George Kittle, sorry. And I think we can throw Hawkinson and Waller in there as like just they're like kind of right that tier just below those four. If you don't have one of those guys, you have nobody. And I think Zac Ertz firmly belongs in the Hawkinson Waller tier. Here is why. Zac Ertz had 7.4 targets per game after being traded to the Cardinals. And after week 10, which gives him a couple weeks to get settled into the offense, after week 10, he had 8.3 targets per game. That is enormous for a tight end. It puts him on a 140 targets per game pace. That's bananas. Let me just double check that. Let's see. So if I do like 8.3 times 17, 141 targets per game. There is a very real chance that he sees over 130 targets this year. Not only is it very real, it's actually likely. It's actually likely to happen. Hopkins is suspended, Christian Kirk is gone, and their pass-catching running back, Chase, he's gone. The only thing new that they've added into that is Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown is better than Christian Kirk, but DeAndre Hopkins is suspended for 6 weeks. Currently, Zac Ertz is being drafted behind Comet in sleeper dynasty leagues. And this is just painful. This is just brutally, stupidly painful. Because Zac Ertz, Comet has not met the criteria to break out as an elite tight end producer. And the criteria, the very rudimentary criteria that we're working on, we're still developing this research, is at least 50 targets in his rookie year and at least 180 PPR points by his second year in the league. The whole myth that tight end is a developmental position, it's lies. It's all smoke. It's smoke. I don't understand. If you look at the elite tight ends, you look at Andrews, he was producing as an elite fantasy producer year 2. Pitts, elite fantasy producer year 1. Kelsey, elite fantasy producer year 1. Kittle, elite fantasy producer year 2. Waller's a weird one. He had his addiction, came back, and the year that he came back, he was elite. Hawkinson, let's take a look at Hawkinson. Hawkinson has, guess what? Elite fantasy production year 2. So, where does that leave us? That leaves us saying that Cole Komet, and he ain't it. He's just not it. Like, let me pull up Cole Komet. You guys won't be able to see this, but I'm just going to read this to you real quick. I gotta scroll down and find him. Cole Komet. Cole Komet had 612 yards last year. Not bad. That's not bad for a tight end. He does have room to improve with Jimmy Graham gone. However, he had 0 touchdowns. He couldn't get red zone snaps over Jimmy Grandpa. If he was going to break out by his second year, the guys who are capable of producing elite tight end numbers have already done it by their second year. Zac Ertz is actually the only player on this list who is the exception to that rule, whereas Zac Ertz took him, I believe it was his third year where he truly broke out. But his second year in the league, his first year he produced 100 fantasy PPR points. His second year in the league, he actually produced a very respectable season with 145 PPR points. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but he only had 3 touchdowns. He had over 700 yards, and generally 700 yards is that benchmark that you're really looking at to become an elite tight end producer, because touchdowns are random. They vary, year to year, but those yards, those targets, they stick. So by his third year, Zac Ertz had produced a 170-point season. That is kind of the lowest possible threshold. I like it to be about 180 to like truly signal an elite talent. And yeah, Zac Ertz, he's not as good as Pitts, Andrews, Kittle, Kelsey. So I don't expect him to show those numbers, those truly elite tight end breakout numbers. He much more looks at like Hawkinson. His second year was the same as Hawkinson's third year, 145 points. Now Hawkinson had fewer games played, so we're going to cut him a break. But he is still. Everyone thinks he's dead because of what he had, the way he face planted in Philadelphia. That Philadelphia offense was terrible with Carson Wentz, and the passing situation was terrible with Jalen Hurts. Like, yeah, no dip, he didn't produce well. Like, Dallas Goedert didn't produce a great season last year. And he had Ertz gone for most of that season. He only had 76 targets. He did great with the targets that he did have, considering. But, like, Goddard didn't exactly explode after Ertz left. So, here's what we need to look at. Zac Ertz has a very real chance to see 140 targets. And what is that going to mean if he gets 140 targets? Let's say 130. His yards per catch for his career has hovered right around 11. It's been recently declining to about 10. 10.3 last year. We'll just call it 10.2. It was 10.4 3 years ago. 9.3 last year in Philly with that shitty Carson Wentz offense. And this year with Arizona and Philly, 10.3. So we're going to just say 10 point, or sorry, that's yards per catch. We want yards per target, which is his career yards per target are, they've dipped over the last 2 years. So we'll say it was 6.8 3 years ago, 6.8 last year. And that kind of outlier year, the 1 year that Zac Ertz has not produced, is going to be just disregarded because it was terrible. So in the years before that, we're all over 7. So we'll just say like 6.5 yards per target. 6.5 times, let's say he gets 130 targets. That's going to equal 845 yards on a tight end season. That's good. Now let's say he has those 845 yards. Combine that with 5 touchdowns in a high-powered Arizona offense. Do you remember Mark Andrews' season in 2020? Tight end 6 in PPR, had 7 touchdowns, 700 yards, only 58 receptions. Yeah, it's going to blow that out of the water. He's going to have 14 more points than that. That puts him at 180 points already. He's going to have way more receptions than that. So you take Mark Andrews had just under 60 receptions that year. If he gets 130 targets and has a 62% catch rate times 0.62, that's 80 receptions. That's 32 extra points again. So that takes him over 200 points in a PPR league. He's going to have over a 200-point season. And no one seems to give a crap. He's being drafted behind Gesicki, behind Fant, behind Comet, way behind Goddard, behind Schultz, behind Waller. Waller is the same, or Waller is almost as, sorry, I almost said Waller's the same age. Waller is 2 years younger than him. He is currently younger than Travis Kelce. He is 2 years older than Kittle, 2 years older than, maybe 2 years older than Waller. He's going to produce a huge fantasy year, and he's so cheap to go get. I've talked for a long time about Zac Ertz. I hope you're convinced. If not, sucks to be you. Kareem Hunt, another incredibly disrespected player. Kareem Hunt is currently being drafted behind in sleeper leagues behind Damian Harris, Miles Sanders, Tony Pollard, Dameon Pierce. Those guys are nobodies. Nobodies. Here's the thing. Situations can change, but Damian Harris is not going to become a Kareem Hunt level talent. Miles Sanders is not going to become a Kareem Hunt level talent. Tony Pollard will not become a Kareem. Tony Pollard might. He might. But not anytime soon because Zeke is locked in with that contract for at least this year and next year. And Pollard is an unrestricted free agent in 2023. So maybe Pollard goes on, but he doesn't have the size to be a 3-down workhorse. Who knows? I don't know. We'll ignore Pollard. And he's definitely better than Dameon Pierce, and that's not particularly close. His Hunt's contract expires next year, and he could very well end up as a lead back somewhere else. Not only that, but there are signalers that he could be traded this year, as in they have Nick Chubb, they have Dearness Johnson, and they drafted a rookie running back. I think it was a 4th round with Jerome Ford. Like a good rookie running back, like someone who's on some people's top 10 running backs list. Other people were like, he's trash. He's pretty good. He's got great straight line speed. Doesn't make a ton of people miss, but he shows in his tape. He shows how to manipulate defenders. He presses the line and uses his speed to get the edge. He's got tools that he can succeed in the NFL, and he has very good hands for a running back. Very natural pass catcher. Anyways. He's only going to be 27 this next year. That's still 2 to 3 years of production out of a running back position. And last year he had almost 14 points per game. That's so much better than Miles Sanders. And that's if nothing changes in his situation. If he just comes back and is the same player in the same situation. But then you get Deshaun Watson elevating this offense. The offense gets better, running back production gets better, wide receiver production gets better. You know, it's not like a good quarterback comes to town and they're like, well, we're not going to run the ball anymore because we got Deshaun Watson. That ain't how that works. The good quarterback comes to town, everybody gets better. It's just how it goes. It's just how it goes. All right. Allen Robinson is our next super disrespected player. Currently being drafted behind Gabe Davis, behind Hunter Renfrow, behind Brandon Ayuk, behind Courtland Sutton, behind Mike Williams. Here's why all of that is ridiculous. You might be like, but Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis has never had 600 yards receiving in a single season. Hasn't done it. 2 years. Might be one of those third-year breakout players like Hollywood Brown. But Hollywood Brown at least had some signalers that he was ascending. Gabe Davis just had a worse season than he did his rookie season. He had one great playoff game. And the Bills have shown like they might, they cleared out some space for him. But like he's got Jamison Crowder, he's got Khalil Shakir. Like there's other mouths that if they can ball are going to be able to leapfrog Gabe Davis. If I was a Khalil Shakir truther, I'd be looking at Gabe Davis as an ascendable depth chart, a depth chart that could be overcome. Gabe Davis is not all that in a bag of potato chips. Hunter Renfrow. being drafted behind Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow's had one great season. It was a good season, but he's only done it once. Like, he was in his third year in the league. Only one great season. Now, Hunter Renfrow could be a dude, but he's only 2 years younger. He's in a worse offense. He just had like the ultimate target hog come to town. And I don't understand why the change in Renfro's situation hasn't impacted him as negatively as the change in Robinson's situation. Brandon Eyuk, another dude who's never done it. 800 yards is his ceiling so far in his career. Barely outperformed his rookie season, but did not beat his rookie season in targets. Just beat it in yards because he had good yards per catch this year. So like, I like the youth in Brandon Eyuk, but like, if you're gonna tell me that like, if Brandon Eyuk is just a dude who gets 800 yards and 5 touchdowns, he's literally useless in fantasy. If he doesn't progress, this year is kind of his, like, if he doesn't do it this year, Eyuk is sunk. His value is sunk. Absolutely sunk. If Renfrow has a bad year, his value is sunk. If Gabe Davis has a bad year, his value is sunk. If Courtland Sutton comes out and has a bad year, his value is sunk. If Mike Williams comes out and has another bad year, his value is sunk. Here's why I hate Courtland Sutton being drafted in front of him. Everyone's like, but Courtland Sutton was so good 2 years ago. You know who was better? Allen fucking Robinson. But Courtland Sutton, he's got Russell Wilson coming to town. Oh, well, you know who went to a much better situation? Allen Robinson. Yeah, but Courtland Sutton was dealing with an injury. Well, you know who was injured multiple times last year? Allen Robinson. Courtland Sutton, his one and only good season was 2019, where he had 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's a great season. Good job, Courtland. He face planted epically last year in 2021, coming off an ACL. And in games where he and Jerry Jeudy were on the field, he was averaging like 2 or 3. Like, he was averaging a pitifully small amount of targets. All of his massive target share games came when Jerry Jeudy was not on the field. Jerry Jeudy is the alpha. Anyone who says that he is not the alpha in this offense, you need to just put in some headphones, tune them out, earplugs, whatever. Courtland Sutton is not going to come in and alpha over Jerry Jeudy. It's not going to be a 1 and 1A thing. Courtland Sutton's done it once in his career. Allen Robinson has done it every single year of his career except last year. Courtland Sutton has a new quarterback. Guess who else does? Guess who has a better offense? The Rams have a better offense than Denver's about to have. I'd be willing to bet a large amount of money on that. I'd be willing to bet a very large amount of money on that. I love Russell Wilson. I love the boost that he's going to give these players. But it doesn't make sense that Allen Robinson's being taken behind him when Courtland Sutton's literally coming off back-to-back faceplant seasons. It's not just one, it's 2 faceplant seasons. Mike Williams has faceplanted every year of his fucking career, and he's still being drafted ahead of Allen Robinson. Well ahead of Allen Robinson. Like a full round and a half ahead of Allen Robinson. Mike Williams isn't the alpha in his offense. Has never been the alpha in his offense. Will never be the alpha in his offense. Has a long history of injuries. And, if you ask me, like, who would you rather have, 27-year-old Mike Williams? Everyone thinks he's young because this is like the first time anyone's ever cared about him. He's 27 years old, about to be 28. Allen Robinson's 28, about to be 29. So 1 year difference. That's nothing. Mike Williams has done it once. Robinson's done it every year except this past year. And here's the deal. If Mike Williams comes out and he face plants again, like the whole knock on Robinson is like, oh, well, Robinson's going to be one of those guys where if he has a bad year, like, he's just worthless. So is Gabe Davis, so is Hunter Renfrow, so is Brandon Eyuk, so is Courtland Sutton, so is Mike Williams. None of those guys are going to be getting second chances, and Allen Robinson's behind all of them. when quarterbacks target Allen Robinson, they're generally completing passes to him at a higher rate than their completion percentage, which is nuts because their quarterback completion percentage, includes passes to running backs, which are completed at like an 80% or higher clip. It includes passes to tight ends, which are generally shorter, easier catches. Generally, the outside receivers should be having a lower catch percentage, slightly, than a quarterback's completion percentage. Not the case with Allen Robinson. Almost every year he's been at or above his quarterback's completion percentage. 2019, 2020, 2021. He is right there with, even last year where he was terrible. He had a horrible year last year. His completion percentage was 0.3 lower than Darnell Mooney. His catch rate was 0.3 lower than Darnell Mooney. Justin Fields' completion percentage was 58.9. His catch rate was 57.6. That is 1.3% lower than Fields' crappy completion percentage. And now he's going to a place where he's got Matthew Stafford, and Stafford has got a way better completion percentage, way better offense. It's just a no-brainer that Allen Robinson is going to ball out. If Allen Robinson gets, I don't know, 20% target share of this offense, like, what's 20% of, let's see, Stafford had 600 attempts this past year. So let's see, 600 times 0.2, 120 targets. Stafford's completion percentage was about 66.8. So times 66. He's going to have 80 catches. And let's see, where is Robinson's career average depth of target? His general yards per reception have been well over 10, generally about 12. So we're going to say it's about 12. And in a Rams offense, it would not be absurd to say it reaches 13, but we'll be conservative. We'll say 12. So he's going to have like a 950,000-yard season with the Rams. And I honestly think that a 20% target share is probably low. I think 12 yards per catch is well below his career average and probably low as well. I think that Allen Robinson is going to have a large breakout and is way undervalued in this Rams offense. Brandon Cooks. I'm running long, so I'm just going to say literally everything I just said about Robinson, copy paste for Cooks. People are stupid in that they get excellence fatigue. Brandon Cooks is excellent. He is not elite. He is excellent. 1,100 yards, copy paste per year. He took 1 year off in L.A. or he didn't perform excellent. 1,100 yards with Davis Mills and Tyrod Taylor last year. He had over 1,000 yards with Davis Mills and Tyrod Taylor. I think Davis Mills is good. I think he's the best rookie quarterback of the last year, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But it doesn't, like, why is he being drafted behind all of those guys and Allen Robinson? All he does is put up wide receiver 2 numbers. And he's going in the 10th round. And he's 28 years old. He's still got 2-3 years left in him. Now, here is the most overly respected player in Dynasty football. This dude sucks. And I'm calling in the panic bus. If you are not on it, you need to get on board. Because Trevor Lawrence, he bad. He real bad. In his situation, it's like copy-pasted from last year. Like, last year he didn't have any weapons. He had Urban Meyer. He had this. Okay, first off, the whole Urban Meyer thing. How many times have we seen, like, I'm a St. Louis guy. Do you remember how many head coaches Sam Bradford went through? And each time we were like, now that we have a new head coach, Sam Bradford's going to be great. Well, it turns out that was never the case. Turns out in the NFL, you rotate through head coaches, and it doesn't solve a fundamental lack of understanding of the game at an NFL level. It doesn't change that. Let's take a look at some of these numbers by Trevor Lawrence. First off, his value. He's currently going in the 3rd round of dynasty startups. And he had an absolutely miserable first year. I mean, he blew it. He absolutely freaking blew his chance his first year. All right. He averaged 12.2 points per game. That's less than Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt is a backup running back. That's not even good for a running back. Mac Jones is being drafted later than him by about a full round and change. And he averaged 1.3 points per game better. And the entire knock on Mac Jones is that his points per game were bad. It would never be good. But you're like, but Trevor Lawrence, he can run. He's fast. He can run. Okay. So he had 300 yards rushing last year. You would think that he was going to run more his rookie year, where he's going to be relying much more on his true raw athleticism and running for his life because his O-line was hot dog shit. And his most scrambled yards in a game last year were 39 yards. That was the most. So even with averaging a couple extra points per game with his legs, and I mean a couple, he had 2 rushing touchdowns on the season. That's it. 2. He had 330 yards. That's not much. I'm just blindly checking at this point. I don't even know what I'm looking at here. So let's take a look at how many yards someone like who's not really a mobile quarterback? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is not mobile. Joe Burrow had 118 yards. So he had 20 points extra than Joe Burrow from rushing. That's not very much. That's 1 point per game. Let's see. Dak Prescott's not really mobile anymore. Prescott ran for 146, about half of what what's his face did. Stafford, this dude's a statue, ran for 43, 112 the year before that when he was running for his life in Detroit. Aaron Rodgers, dude's 38, had over 100. Derek Carr had 108. Zach Wilson had 185 in only 13 games. Probably about the same, pretty close to the same yards per attempt as Trevor Lawrence. His rushing upside isn't, it's not really there. He's mobile, but he's not a scrambler. Let's talk about Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson had 12.2 points per game, the exact same as Trevor Lawrence. And he is being drafted in the 6th round of startups. The 6th. You could trade, in a startup draft that allows you to trade draft picks, you could trade your 3rd round pick that you could have used to draft Trevor Lawrence. You could trade it for a 6th to get Zach Wilson, a carbon copy of Trevor Lawrence's production. And you could get a 2023 rookie first and maybe a 2023 rookie second. Yeah, I'll take the extra value. I'll take a chance at an actually good quarterback in 2023 with that draft pick. Because the team that's getting Trevor Lawrence, they're going to suck if they're relying on Trevor Lawrence to produce points for them. Because here's why I'd rather have Wilson also. They drafted him a weapon with a top 10 pick in Garrett Wilson. They drafted him the best running back in the class with a great draft capital, very early second. They already had a good O-line from last year. I think it was a top 10 or 12 ranked, and they got him a tight end in the 3rd round. I'm not hyped about the tight end they got him, but they're investing. They're trying to set Zach Wilson up for our success. You know what they did for Trevor Lawrence? They got him a worse wide receiver in Christian Kirk, who, by the way, Christian Kirk is going to be hitting the cap next year for $21.5 million. His dead cap next year is 30. They can't cut him next year. They'll just be flushing $30.5 million down the drain. There says there's a potential 2-year out, but it's with 10 million dead cap. If they let him out at 2020. Oh, I think I just make sure my mic is working. My thing just shut off automatically. Yeah, all right, mic's working. Cool. In 2024, if they cut Christian Kirk, they're going to still be flushing 10 million of their cap that they're going to need to sign some other shitty wide receiver. They're still going to be flushing 10 million down the drain. In 2025, if they cut him, they're going to be flushing 5 million off their cap down the drain. So like, unless they restructure his deal in a very like front-loaded way, they've kind of hamstrung a lot of their like this Christian Kirk deal cannot be overstated how bad it is. And he's never been an elite producer. So you're telling me you've added Christian Kirk, a 3rd-round O-lineman, and a 5th-round running back, and that's the only thing that you did for your 101 pick, the hope of your franchise? Look, the Jacksonville Jaguars have proven for like 25 years that they are not capable of putting a competitive roster on the field year after year. It is an organizational deficiency that they cannot do it. And they have like Lawrence is like, he is the greatest quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. Sure, fine. I didn't watch his tape really. I don't care what a prospect. He's not a prospect anymore. He's an NFL player. So like, they've taken this great prospect and they have set him up to fail epically in his rookie year. And again, they're doing it now in his sophomore season. When you could trade that Trevor Lawrence, you could get Zach Wilson and 2023 first. Like, yes, immediately. Zach Wilson is likely going to outproduce Trevor Lawrence this year. He got weapons. He has a better O-line. He now has a run game with Breece Hall. Yeah, sign me up. Sign me up. Oh, and they improved their defense as well. Like, it wasn't just those things. They didn't just draft offense. They also improved their defense, which needed improving because it's abysmal. But, like, Wilson has a chance to break out. Whereas Trevor Lawrence is literally re-racking last year's season. He's learning a new offense. He's got a new head coach. He has crap weapons, no O-line, or I should say the same O-line. And that's it. That's it. You've swapped out James Robinson for Travis Etienne because Robinson just tore his Achilles. He ain't coming back. Like, it's a re-roll of last year. And he's still valued this high. And here's the deal. If he faceplants, if Lawrence faceplants his second season, you know who else kind of like is considered to be a somewhat of a faceplant? Tua Tagovailoa. Tua had not a great rookie season, but it was better than Lawrence's. And then he improved on that the next season, and he's dropped again in value. If Trevor Lawrence improves his touchdown production, by a factor of 2, he gets twice as many touchdowns this year. He's still going to be having pretty much the same production that Mac Jones just had, if he doubles his touchdown production. He had 17 picks. That's crazy. 17 picks. His average depth of target is horrible. The offense is gonna be bad. They didn't add weapons, and you're expecting this dude to take this massive, like, in order for him to pay off, he's going to have to take this insanely large step forward. That's probably like first off, I give him like probably a only about a 60% chance to like progress really at all. I don't think he could get worse. Like it's unlikely he gets worse. Probably 70% chance to progress. But like the step that people are drafting him to take this next year is bananas. It's bananas. It's insane. Trade Trevor Lawrence for any other of these quarterbacks, Tua, Wilson, Mac Jones, Kenny Pickett. Trade him for those guys and a 2023 first. Thank me later. That's all I've got. Stop listening to all the other idiots. They're insane. And enjoy the pictures of fish. Bye.